Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone. Hey, Drunky, what's up, Maddie? Hey, Jason, Lynn, Marilda, good morning, afternoon, good evening. It's one of those times. Good day to you, Sweet Pea Gang. Okay, so we have day 2, and our deputy that says that his weapon went off while he was cleaning it, drunk, naked. Yeah, I'll digress. Hey, Dandy, how are you? Let's see here what we got going on. I got my coffee. Oh goodness, I tried to give up this coffee thing, and I don't know. I don't think it's gonna work. I'm starting to I didn't took the whole, like they put the cap on the coffee. I didn't take the whole cap off the coffee. No, like why? I don't know. I think I'm setting myself up for failure to spill my coffee, but for some reason, I don't know if you guys are like me, smells bother me if they're not my smell, or a man that smells really, really good. Because like if a man got on some cologne and it smelled real, real good, I almost be trying to break my neck to follow them in the store. But that's neither here nor there. Let's get back to this coffee thing. So when I go over to McDonald's and I go get my coffee, guys, I really wanted to write to McDonald's headquarters or whoever owns the Mickey D chain. Yes, I do understand that your employees like to come to work and they like to put on their perfume and their Axe spray and all of these things, right? In order to go work to work. No shade on Mickey D's because I love them. That was my first job. My issue is that they come with all this spray, all this Axe spray, and then they make my coffee and they put the top on the coffee and it smells like them. If don't nobody else know, and this is for Dunkin' Donuts, this is for, I don't know if Starbucks, if I really, because I don't drink Starbucks, but y'all know I mess with Dunkin' Donuts real tough, and I will mess with McDonald's real tough, and I really want to send something in, letting them know, hey, when you are preparing people's drinks, please put on some gloves, or please put in a rule you are not allowed to wear perfume. If you're a woman, you typically put your perfume or your fragrance right here on your little wrist, right? So when you're making a person's drink and you put the top on the drink, I do not want it to smell like you as I'm putting my lips to it to drink my coffee. So this morning, of course, I went and my cup smells like whoever made it on the top. So I had to take the top off. And it kind of upsets me because it's not the first time. It's not going to be the last time. And I just really, 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 really wish that they implement that rule. But I guess it's kind of hard to do like a check of who has perfume, who has cologne on when you come into work. But you can have them wear gloves. Right? I think you can have them wear gloves. I see a little sweat coming on. I'm very upset about this because I'm scared I'm going to spill my coffee on me. But yeah, Dandyline's like, I'm not paying $8 for no coffee. And my coffee at McDonald's cost me all of $1. And the price went up. It cost me $2.10 for a large coffee. You pay $13. Jason, at Starbucks. Are you serious? And there's another one. I don't know if y'all have it in y'all state or not. It's called Dutch Bros. I think that's what it's called. The line be wrapped around the corner. Like I was thinking like maybe I should do like a little pop-up stand and sit there right there. But you get a sandwich. Y'all got that money. Y'all got them dollars. I couldn't even imagine. No. And ain't no coffee that good. It's nothing that good. Like Dutch Bros, they be wrapped around the corner, and I think they like kind of like a Starbucks, if I'm not mistaken. And their coffee is probably just as expensive. And yeah, I should do a pop-up stand and get my coffee to be almost as close as Starbucks. Sit outside the Starbucks and sell mine for half the price of the Starbucks, and I'll probably be faster. You don't like Dutch Bros? Okay. I couldn't imagine. I can't imagine spending that much money. I'm mad that McDonald's didn't raise their cost of their coffee to $2. Like, who told y'all can raise your price? I said, okay, now y'all done raise your price to $2. Now I'm gonna go over here to Dunkin' Donuts now, because Dunkin' Donuts is $3. And I can get some caramel up in my coffee. So y'all can play that if y'all want to. You say it's $40 every 2 months. Now that's what I'm talking about, Dandy. Oh, wow. Yeah. So, well, at least I can say at Starbucks, you probably don't have to worry about smelling somebody's perfume on the top of your lid. It's just a disgusting place for me because I don't like smells unless they're in the appropriate place. Okay. So on the top of my coffee, I really don't want to smell that while I'm drinking my coffee. I don't. And your perfume, your cologne can smell absolutely wonderful. It don't smell great when I'm drinking. So I had to take the top off because it was smelling like them, and I was like, yuck. Okay, let me see, because I see somebody in here cutting up already. You did not see the entry message, Marilda. Drunky said, we are not bringing up baby oil today. And here you go, starting off. No, I am not trying to figure out where baby oil comes from. Appropriate place. So, Jason, what I mean about appropriate place, I cologne on you. You know, perfume on her. As she walking past me or he's walking past me, I can smell it. I do not want it on the top of my lid. Appropriate place. Smells. If you, I ain't TMI. Wait a minute. I'm not going into that because I was about to say something that I probably should not say. Okay. Let me retract. So just difference where smells are supposed to be. So if I'm going to the zoo and I'm going by the lions, the smell, I can accept that smell there. But do not bring the lion smell or the horse smell from their poo out here on the street, because that's an inappropriate place for me to have to smell that. Does that make sense? But I can deal with it if I'm at the zoo because I have came to your grounds, right? So I expect to smell different things and smell different places. But please, if I'm going to get my coffee, I do not want to smell you on my coffee lid. I'm just saying. Hey, Rachel. Good morning. No, Maddie, that is so not true. Like, how do you drink your coffee in the lid and you can't? No. Hey, Just Shamrock. Yeah, I just when you drinking it, you could just smell it, and I don't want to smell it. I don't. If I just don't want to smell it. You think it's just female pure perfume? I don't know, but I just it just gets on my nerves. Rachel said, I once got a makeover by this artist who had yellow fingers from her cigarettes and she smelled like tobacco and I wanted to die. I know you did. You got a Roman nose. Yes, and I am very nosy, Maddie. That I am. But some smells I just depending, like I said, it has to be in the appropriate place. If I smell what? I don't know, Jason. If I smell sausage on my top, I think you would come back inside and see who made your coffee. Sausage? No, I just probably got to think about smells. No, because sausage should not be on top of my coffee. No. What? What are you trying to tell me? Oh, that's a cologne? Oh, y'all know I don't know what he's talking about. Okay, Rachel said it's a cologne. It's a cologne. I don't know what that is. Let me look it up. Dang. Y'all getting on my damn nerves. Damn oil. Now we could talk about cologne. I'm talking about coffee. The only cologne that I know that about men is Axe. Let me see. I still don't want it on my thing. Sausage. Yeah, I thought you was trying. I thought that you was trying to like put a word in there that was a word. Whatever. Okay, let me see. Let me see what the coffee this is. No, I haven't smelled it. Let me see. Let me see. Where they sell it at? I ain't dating no. Well, yeah. No. I just know Axe is a man spray. Let me see. I'm looking it up because y'all not gonna have me out here like I don't know. Well, I don't know shit, but y'all not gonna. I told y'all, look, I've been in Arizona for 8 years. I don't have no friends, so yeah, I probably don't know a lot except for all the things that I make up in my head, which is a very dangerous place. Let me say that. Okay, so I see it. Okay, so I'm gonna have to go. I'll go to Macy's so I can smell it because you know I do like to go to the mall at different points in time, and I do like to walk past the little counters and smell a man. I smell like men's cologne. Like my daughter said, I'm weird. I probably would love to wear men's cologne before I wear women's cologne, but that perfume. But okay, so I am putting this down. I'm taking a picture of it. I don't know. Men's cologne does something to me. I will admit to you guys. So if it smells good, Jason, I'm gonna let you know, and I might be in love because I love me some men's cologne. Yeah, I want you to smell like a man. Like sometimes when I go in the store and I smell a man walks past me, I be like with my nose. This no. Okay, Paul. Okay. Yeah, I ain't gonna tell you like it does some things for me. It's the small things that do it for me. Some people need a lot of stuff. I don't need a lot of stuff. It's small things that make me happy. Okay. I'm putting it on my list of things. So when I go there, you know how they be coming and they be like, smell this. Do you want to smell this? Do you want to smell this? I'm gonna just go and tell them, look, these are the two I want to smell. So that way they don't be chasing me down in the mall. Oh, Jason got the whole collection for me. I'm about to see what you working with, Jason. Mm-hmm. Danny said, I love a good smelling man. I'm telling you, Danny, I'm so there with you. It's a lot of things, the smells that I got issues with, but ooh, a man. Ooh, smell like a man. Ooh, wait. Yes. Yes. I wonder was he smelling like a man. Is he smelling like a man today? Is he about to cry up here on the stand? Because I heard he taking the stand, y'all. Leslie, I don't know how you get off. Is Leslie for a man common? Max say he wears some PI by Givenchy. All right. I'm gonna have to put that in my list. I'm gonna see what you working with, Maddie. While y'all talking about all this stuff and just throwing stuff in here, I'm gonna see what you're talking about. What that means. Okay. PI. Yeah. Okay, Rachel says she don't want y'all smelling y'all when she smelling her when she walk in the room. She wants you to be so close that you ain't got no damn choice. she wants you to be like, uh-oh, Rachel. I don't know. Yo, you know that guy Marilda. I just wonder, like, what do we think? I can't even take him serious with a dang on name Leslie. Sorry. To any other men out here called Leslie. Like, I can't take this guy serious when his name called Leslie. And we just heard a 911 call with a 911 operator swore up and down that this was a lady. I cannot take him for real. But who am I? But this one right here, I can't take him for real. Name like Leslie, we done heard a whole 20-minute 911 call, and he was called ma'am the whole time. And and I think that he could have corrected the officer or the 911 operator at some point in time, only because there were points in times during his call where Leslie, he was very, very calm. Sir, well, I keep wanting to say sir, but it was ma'am. How old is she? She's 25 years old. She goes to college. She's studying for her law degree. No, this was not supposed to happen. So, like, there were points and periods and times where if he wanted to calm down and say some stuff, he's calmed down and said that stuff. Very clear as that. I think we can all agree upon that, right? Okay. So I guess y'all let me know when y'all ready to go in. Probably shouldn't say go in, but yeah, y'all let me know. I don't know, something like that. Y'all let, yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of tongue tied this morning. Are y'all ready to go ahead and get into this testimony today? You know, ever since Diddy trial came out, like I feel like I gotta be so careful with all my words in, out, through, did. Dang, it's kind of irritating. Hey, Barbara, good morning. Let's see what our God has for us today.
With that being said, Mr. Taddy, where do we intend to go today in terms of your presentation of evidence?
I intend to call my client as our only witness.
Okay. All right. Mr. Boileau, I need to ask you some questions. Can I have you raise your right hand? You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right. You can put your hand down, sir. Mr. Boileau, I'm going to ask some questions to make sure that you're making the decision to become a witness freely and voluntarily, okay, with a full understanding of your rights, okay? Do you understand that you have a constitutional right to remain silent?
I do.
Do you understand that if you were to choose to remain silent and not become a witness, I would instruct this jury that the fact that you testify cannot be used against you in any way, and that a jury is not permitted to draw from that any inference of guilt whatsoever?
I do.
Do you understand that if you testify, I will instruct the jury that they have to consider your testimony like that of any other witness? Do you understand?
I do.
You understand that if you testify, you will be subject to cross-examination by the state?
I do.
Now, I don't believe this applies to you, but if you had ever been previously convicted of a felony or a misdemeanor crime of dishonesty, you could be impeached with that. Do you understand?
I do.
Okay, state, I assume he has no prior convictions of any type.
No, Your Honor.
All right. Now, do you understand that the right to remain silent and the right to testify is a right that belongs solely to you?
I do.
It does not belong to anyone else, including your attorney. Do you understand?
I do.
Now, I expect that Mr. Taddy has given you his advice and his opinion. I don't want to know what you talked about, but have you had the chance to talk to him about this decision?
Yes.
Has he given you his advice and his opinion?
Yes.
You understand that no matter how strong his opinion may be, one way or the other about what is in your best interest, ultimately the decision whether to testify or remain silent rests solely with you.
I understand.
Okay, and have you discussed all of this with Mr. Taddy?
Yes.
Do you need any additional time to speak with him about this?
No.
Do you wish to become a witness in the case, or do you wish to remain silent?
I wish to become a witness.
Do you feel that you have been adequately prepared for testifying?
Yes.
Are you making this decision voluntarily?
Yes.
Has anybody forced you, coerced you, pressured, or threatened you to get you to make this decision?
No.
I will find that Mr. Boileau has waived his Fifth Amendment privilege against testifying freely and voluntarily and knowingly and intelligently. With that being said, are there any other witnesses that you want your attorney to call during the trial?
No.
Do you have any questions for me? Is there anything that you want to bring to my attention?
No.
Are you satisfied up to this point with Mr. Taddy's services for you?
Yes.
Has anybody told you how to answer my questions here today?
No.
All right, very good. All right. We're going here shortly. Okay, I've been told all the jurors are here. If y'all want to take 5 minutes until 8:30, I'm not sure if anybody else is planning to be in attendance, but family-wise,
Just
for
trying
the
to
state, yeah, for the state or defense, if people are milling about, we'll give them 5 minutes. So, we'll be back in 5 minutes. We'll bring in the jury. Anything else we need to bring up before that?
That's
Okay. While the jurors are getting rounded up, I did want to thank everybody in the audience for your appropriate in-court behavior yesterday. I don't know that I've ever been part of a trial where there have been this many people, all of whom have been appropriate. So thank you. Counsel, y'all please see. First, good morning, welcome back. When we separated yesterday, I instructed all of you to not try to investigate or learn about the case, including the use of electronic devices, not watch any news media or engage in social media use or anything like that. Have all of you been able to follow those instructions?
Yes.
Did anybody happen to, in the course of the night, come across any information about this case on the internet or otherwise? So raise your hands. Thank you for following my instructions. All right, very good. We'll go ahead and proceed then. Mr. Patty, you can call your first witness.
Defense, we'd call Leslie Dale Boileau Jr.
Come on up, sir. I did. Be seated.
May it please the court?
Yes, sir.
Counsel. All right, would you state your full name, please?
Leslie Dale Boileau Jr.,
How old are you, Dale?
33.
Are you employed right now?
I am. I'm
What are you doing for a living?
working at a fabrication shop learning how to weld.
And you used to work for the Marion County Sheriff's Office? Is that
I did.
right? How long did you work for the sheriff?
8 years.
And you were terminated as a result of the incident that we're here about today.
I was.
What were your duties at the time that you left the sheriff's office?
I was a patrol deputy.
How much did you weigh in September of 2020?
210, 215 pounds.
So it looks like you've lost a considerable amount of weight.
A little bit.
How tall are you?
5'6".
In September of 2024, how long had you lived in the house on 32nd Avenue?
About 5 years.
Do you own it or rent it?
I had a mortgage.
How did you meet Paulina Wright?
We initially met on a dating app, and then we eventually met in person downtown a couple weeks after.
How did the first meeting go?
Went well.
Did you begin to see each other at that point?
Yeah.
At the time of her death, how long had you been dating Paulina?
About 2 years.
Tell us about her.
She was a great person. She was modest. She was respectful. She was loyal. She encouraged me to be a better person. She was just naturally beautiful.
Had you met her parents?
I did.
How often would you see her parents?
Every now and then.
Did they live in Marion County?
No, they didn't.
Where did they live?
I believe it's Citrus County, Florida City.
Did you have some knowledge of Paulina's upbringing?
Yeah, she told me.
What did she tell you?
She went basically through her entire childhood. We both did. She was adopted from Russia when she was 6 or 7. She has a twin sister and a brother that was adopted with her.
So the Wrights adopted her?
Yeah.
From Russia?
Yeah.
Did she have other siblings within the Wright family?
Yeah, she did.
Was she working in September of 2024?
She was.
What was she do? What did she do for a living?
She worked as basically, I would say, a secretary for a company out in the shore. She did their billing and purchasing and payroll and stuff like that. She was working on actually in September transferring over to a new job.
Do you know if she'd been to college?
I believe so, yes.
Did she have any kind of degree that you were aware of?
I believe she had an AA degree from CF.
And you said you'd been together for 2 years. Had you begun to discuss marriage at all?
We kind of joked about it, but it was obviously on the table. We were working towards that. You don't date someone for 2 years and not have that on the table, basically.
What were your living arrangements by September of 2024?
She was free to come and go as she pleased. She was still in her lease at an apartment complex, but we were actively speaking on and it was going to be like in 3 or 4 months when her lease was up, she was going to be living with me full time.
Does she have a key to your house?
She did.
Let's talk about September 19th. What did you do that day?
We met up probably around 9 or 10 o'clock that morning.
How did you meet up?
She came over to my house. It was pretty standard. I was going into my long weekend of work, so pretty much any day we had off before that, we try to hang out. So it was a pretty typical day for us. We went out to lunch, hit a couple stores, and then was just hanging out around the house.
Where did you go to lunch?
Longhorn Steakhouse.
Was any alcohol consumed at lunch?
No.
Where did you go after lunch?
If I remember correctly, we went to Target and I think TJ Maxx, and then we came home.
What did you do when you got home?
We just hung out, just watched TV.
At some point that late afternoon or evening, did you decide to go out to dinner?
We did.
How did you choose the Mexican place?
We talked about a couple different options and we landed on Mexican food. It was extremely close to the house and we didn't really want to.
Had you been there before?
Yeah.
So you ordered food and margaritas.
Yes.
Tell us about the drinks.
Well, we normally get one margarita when we're there because it's a large margarita. But it was 2 for $1s that night when we walked in. So and they were taking a while. We were there over an hour. So we just started ordering the 2 for $1 margaritas. And we landed on 3 by the time we were done.
How were they serving them?
And like little mug gauntlet things.
And 6 of them cost you $26.94. Is that right?
Yeah.
So that was less than $4.50 each.
Sounds about right.
Did they taste like they had any alcohol in them?
They taste a lot like sour mix, but
Now, the check that Detective Kern was able to obtain said your tab was opened at about 7:30 and then closed at 8:32 p.m. What did you do when you left the restaurant?
we drove straight home.
How far from the house is the restaurant?
5 minutes, easy.
And what did the two of you do when you got back home?
We changed. I don't really know what she was doing. She was doing her stuff, taking care of her cat. I fed my dog. That's when I came out to the living room and put on the football game and started doing the gun stuff.
Okay. Now, you changed out of whatever you had worn to the restaurant
Correct.
into the clothing that we've seen on the video?
Correct.
And Paulina had a blanket on and nothing else.
Correct.
Was that normal?
At this point in the relationship, yes.
So that was typical for her once she got home and got comfortable, was to disrobe and grab a blanket.
I wouldn't say 100% of the time, but it was very common.
Did you have any more alcohol when you got back home?
No.
Now, you called 911 at 10:52 p.m.
Yes.
I'd like you to walk us through that 2.5 hour period of time from the point you got back from dinner until that call was made.
So when I came in and sat down at the dining room table, I started cleaning my rifle because I had just shot it a couple weeks prior, or within a week. I was waiting for all of my gun cleaning stuff to come in to clean that said gun. It was already all on the table. I saw it. I sat down and I started cleaning it. She was off doing other stuff in the house. And then she eventually came over and sat down, started talking to me. We weren't necessarily talking about the gun stuff. We were just hanging out. We talked about what we were going to do next week, like went through a bunch of different stuff. And then she started to show interest in the gun cleaning. So I started showing her parts, handing it to her, stuff like that.
Now, is this exclusively the rifle that
Yes.
we're talking about at this point?
Yes, it was just the rifle.
Now, and we'll kind of come back to exactly what you did with the gun stuff.
Okay.
But did the two of you stay at that table the entire 2.5 hours?
No, we were up and down.
So you would get up from the table, walk some other part of the house?
Yeah, I had to use the bathroom at some point. I remember. I know she got up and went to the bathroom at some point.
Did she get up from the table?
Yeah.
Do you know what she was doing when she left?
No.
Okay. So this wasn't a continuous, let's take apart and put together this.
No.
Dale, have you thought about what happened that night and the mistakes that you made
Plenty,
every day?
pretty much.
What should have been different?
We should have been sitting across from each other.
Why didn't you move her?
I thought we were being safe. It was our normal spots to sit.
At a gun range during firearms training, how are trainees and the officers that go do their annuals, how are they positioned?
In a straight line.
Nobody facing each other.
No, you're facing the target you're going to shoot at.
How many times have you gone through there's an initial firearms training, right? When you become a law enforcement
Yeah.
officer. Okay. And then you have regular training, is that right?
Yeah, once a year.
This is State's Exhibit 24. According to the state, this is a record of your training, including your firearms training. So in 8 years, you accumulated quite a bit of paper. How many times do you think you'd been on a gun range while you were with the sheriff's office?
Maybe 12 times.
Had you ever been shaded by another shooter during those trainings?
Yes.
What does shaded mean?
Basically, flagged is another term for it. It means another officer on the range basically turns and points their gun at you.
Accidents happen.
They do.
Now, when you were talking with Detective Kern, you used the phrase dry fire exercise.
Yes.
Is that an accurate description of what you were showing?
Yes.
Tell us what a dry fire exercise is and tell us that you have had to do one.
Yes, it's basically the first step to learning how to handle a firearm. It's the first thing you do in the police academy. It's really the only training and or teaching you can do inside of a house. It's basically just showing you how to hold the gun and pull the trigger.
Does it involve the sight picture?
Yeah.
On a handgun or a rifle?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, did you show that to her and explain it to her
Yes.
with that rifle?
Yes.
Did you give her something to aim at?
Yes.
What did you tell her?
The picture on the wall.
Where was the picture?
A couple feet next to me.
Okay. Behind you and
Yeah.
away from you?
Yeah.
You didn't ask her to point the rifle at you?
No.
You never pointed the rifle at her?
No.
And you weren't playing cops and robbers with guns? What did she think of the rifle?
She didn't really care for it. It was too heavy.
All right. So when she was done with the rifle, what happened?
Put it back together and I laid it on the end of the table. And that's when she picked up my handgun.
Where was the handgun?
It was just laying on the table.
Is that the gun that goes with your uniform or another gun?
It's my off-duty weapon that the sheriff's office gives us to carry.
Tell us what happened when she picked up the handgun.
Well, when I was laying down the rifle, I look up and she's holding the handgun. And obviously I knew that gun was loaded because it's the one I took to dinner. So I asked her to hand it to me, which she did, and I unloaded it and then I handed it back to her.
And how did you unload it?
Taking the magazine out, ejecting the one that's in the chamber.
And where did you put the magazine and the round you ejected?
I just set it on the table.
On your side?
Yeah. Well, I was on that side of the table at that point.
Now, when you handed her the rifle, did you hand her the weapon loaded?
No.
Did she ever have the ammunition for the
No.
rifle?
No.
When you handed her the handgun, was there any ammunition with it?
No.
So that both of them were safe when you handed them to her?
Yes.
What did you do with, what did she do, and what did you show her to do with the handgun?
Well, I demonstrated first how to hold the handgun. I pointed it at the wall, like to the right of her where the chalkboard was. Showed her how to hold it, showed her how to pull the trigger. Showed her how to work the action of the handgun. And then I handed it back to her.
Now, was all this going on because you wanted to teach her how to handle a handgun, or did she ask you to do this?
She was inquisitive. I had mentioned to her in the past that she needed to learn home defense, basically. I was like, I'd pay for a class, like I'd go with you. She made it sound like she had never touched a gun before. So I was like, there's always guns around my house because of my job. So I was like, you need to learn that type of stuff. She always kind of put it off. Didn't really show any interest until that night.
Now, and you've already said other things were going on while this exercise was playing out. Was the television on?
Yeah, we were watching football.
So this was a Thursday night?
Yeah.
So it was the NFL game?
Yeah.
Okay. And from where you were seated, could you see the television?
Yeah.
Okay. But you had to turn to see it?
Yeah, I was kind of angled, the exact angle I'm sitting now.
How did the rifle end up back in your hands?
I remembered I didn't do a function test on it when I put it back together. I was allowing her to kind of do her thing with the handgun. I didn't want to overwhelm her. So I was just, and we were just sitting there talking and I was watching the football game.
And when you picked the rifle up, it had a magazine in it. Did it not?
Yes.
Because that's the way you had put it down.
Yeah.
Because when you put it down, did you intend to be done with it the first time? So how do you put up that weapon when it's clean and you're going to put it away?
I just put a magazine in it. I don't charge it. That's how we keep our rifles at the sheriff's office. We don't keep one in the chamber. And I typically just go store it.
And charge, what is that?
It means round in the chamber.
Does an AR style rifle have a different sort of way to load around?
Yes.
Explain it.
It has a charging handle where a handgun has a slide. Very similar, I guess, action you could say, but different at the same time.
So when you had put the rifle down on the table, there was no bullet in the chamber,
Correct.
and it had a full magazine.
Don't keep, the magazine can hold 30 rounds. I don't
So
keep
you
30.
five short,
Yeah, I don't keep it fully loaded.
and that's to preserve the spring in the
Yes.
magazine?
Yeah.
Okay. So you had 25 rounds in it.
Yes.
All right. And when you picked it back up, while she's doing the dry fire thing with the handgun, how did you hold it?
I picked it up while watching the TV and I was holding it like this.
Stand up, make sure all the cameras can see it. So you were kind of cradled.
Yeah.
So the magazine was down. Okay. And what was your intention? What were you gonna do with it?
I was trying.
What is this function test you're talking about?
So when you disassemble a rifle and you put it back together, you have to do a function test to ensure that you put it back together correctly. If you didn't put it back together correctly, it's not going to fire the next time you need it to fire.
All right. And describe or explain the steps in this function test.
The bolts forward, obviously. You have to pull the trigger and hold the trigger and then charge it. Release the trigger and pull the trigger again. And you're listening for the hammer to drop on the firearm to make sure you assembled it correctly. Because if you did not assemble it correctly, it's not going to make that click sound.
So you got it cradled in your arms.
Yeah.
Barrel off to your left.
Yeah.
You're sitting across the table. Yeah. And you're kind of watching TV.
Yeah.
And you said you're listening for a clip. So did you either put your head down to the rifle or bring the rifle up to your head?
Both. Like it was because I was listening more so for a sound. And you can't really see what you're looking for type of deal. It's internal.
So you have to listen.
Yeah.
When you pulled the trigger the first time, what happened?
What was supposed to happen? You heard a click.
And then when you charged it and pulled the trigger the second time,
That's when it went off.
I know you know now where the barrel is pointing. Were you looking at pointing them when you were doing that?
No, I was looking at the TV.
What did you do after you realized she was hit?
Called 911.
Did you go to her?
I did.
Now, what position did she start in? I mean, she's hit. Did she fall back, fall forward?
She was just sitting in the chair.
And did you maintain that position until the officers arrived?
Yeah.
So you were kind of cradling her head?
I didn't know what else to do.
Were you panicked at that point?
I was freaking out.
So they got you out of the house. They told you to leave the house. Is that right? Had you seen the body camera videos before this trial?
No.
You remember doing the things that you saw yourself do on the video?
No, I don't know.
The screaming, and rolling on the ground, and all of that. Do you remember it?
Not
Any
really.
of that happened?
Not really.
Do you remember all the things you said to the police officers there in your yard?
No.
What was going through your head at that point?
I was just trying to figure out what happened, how I allowed it to happen.
And technically, Paulina is dead because you ended up pointing the barrel at her.
Yeah.
But you didn't aim it at her.
No.
Did you ever aim it at her?
No.
So when you told the officers we were pointing the guns at each other, what did that mean when it came out of your mouth?
coming to terms with what happened. Obviously, pointing guns at each other. So this probably happened.
Did any of them ask you what that meant? To describe exactly what had happened?
No.
Then you got driven to the police station and they stuck you in an interview. That I gathered from seeing the blanket was a little cold.
It was
How cold?
shivering.
Do you remember how long you sat in that room?
No.
Was the sun up when you left that building?
Yeah.
You got there at midnight. Did you know that? You knew Sergeant, right?
I did.
How did you know him?
Through passing through the jail. He used to work for the sheriff's office.
He knew your name?
Yeah.
He knew you preferred to be called Dale?
Yeah.
Instead of Leslie?
Yeah.
And the jury's seen your dialogue with Detective Kern. Did he ever ask you the detail that I had asked you? I don't have any other questions.
State any cross-examination.
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Tyler, this is your pen. I want to clarify a couple things that you just told us. So just to make sure, throughout most of the entire night, that AR rifle was in your possession.
Correct.
And when that gun went off, that AR rifle was in your control.
Yes.
You didn't slip. You didn't slip and fall, correct?
No.
You didn't drop the gun. You didn't drop the gun.
No.
You didn't misplace the gun or anything like that.
No.
In fact, when the gun went off, it was in your hands.
It was.
And when the gun went off, you were the one who pulled the trigger.
I was.
And when the gun went off, you were the one who intended to pull the trigger at that point in time.
Yes.
And the only reason why those firearms were out at that point in time was because you decided you wanted to clean them that night.
I did.
And now your AR, do you normally keep that in a gun safe at your house, or do you keep that out?
I keep it in my bedroom.
But you were the one who decided to take it out and bring it into the living room or into the dining room.
It was already sitting on the dining
So
room
you
table.
put it there earlier?
Yeah.
Okay. And you decided to take out those cleaning products from Amazon,
Yes,
and you decided to clean the gun.
I did.
And in fact, you told us originally Paulina wasn't even anywhere near you when you cleaned that gun.
Correct.
But she later came over and she wanted to learn about the firearm.
She did.
And you decided to teach her about the firearm.
Yes.
And you decided to teach her about that firearm with loaded magazines and live ammunition sitting on that dining room table.
Yes.
You're very familiar with firearms, are you not?
Familiar.
In fact, one of your hobbies is you like to hunt.
Yes.
And you were a law enforcement officer, like you said, for 8 years.
Yes.
And you went under training every single year because you had to do an annual training, correct?
Yes.
And one of those things that every single year during that annual training they talk about is gun safety.
Yes.
And I know Mr. Taddy talked a little bit, like you said, when you're at the gun range, you guys are in a straight line.
Yes.
And in fact, there's a term called a hot range and a cold range. Is that correct?
Correct.
Hot range means that guns are being fired and nobody's allowed to go downrange. Is that correct?
Yes.
And a cold range means that people are going down to check targets, or people are in that area to where there's a risk. So you have to put all guns down and nobody can have a gun in their hand. Is that correct?
Correct.
And in fact, there's general rules of safety that you guys learn every year. Like you always treat a firearm if it's loaded.
Correct.
And you never point it towards another person.
Correct.
And then you should not handle firearms, especially when drinking or intoxicated.
Yes.
And that you only point a firearm as something that you intend to kill or destroy.
That's correct.
I also want to talk about these trainings. When you do these trainings, you're shooting at targets, correct?
Yes.
And when you're shooting at these targets, you aim your firearm, get a clear sight picture.
Yes.
Using your sights.
Yeah.
And then you pull that trigger.
Yes.
When you were sitting at that table with Paulina, there was a point in time you activated that red dot sight.
Yes.
In fact, you told Detective Kern it was to show her how that sight worked.
Yes.
Show her how to get a sight picture.
Yes.
Show her how to aim at a target.
Yes.
You heard the medical examiner's testimony yesterday that when that path of that bullet went directly in her forehead and directly out the back of her head.
Yeah.
Correct? So that means at the time that gun went off, it was aimed directly at her. No further questions, Judge.
Any redirect examination?
Just briefly. So Mr. O'Neill asked you if you intended to pull the trigger.
I did.
Did you intend to shoot Paulina?
No.
Did you intend to discharge that weapon?
No.
You thought it was going to click. No further questions.
Any recross examination?
No, Your Honor.
Members of the jury, do any of you all have questions? If so, please raise your hands. Okay, write them down on a clean sheet of paper, please. Do we have one more coming? If so, raise your hand if you're still writing. Our juror there in the back row, I am having trouble reading your handwriting. It's the third word. I'm going to ask that you just clean it up for me. Council approach. Any other questions? If so, raise your hands. Oh, we have, okay, yeah, nice nod. Take what time you need. Write it. Take what time you need to think out how you want me to pose the question. No rush. Counsel, if y'all want to come in the meantime and look at the others. The white noise on.
It was loaded. I remember.
Had he cleaned guns in Mr. Boileau, I'm going to ask you the questions of the jury has posed. I'm going to ask him exactly as they're written. Had he cleaned guns in front of Paulina before the night in question?
No.
Were you standing or sitting when gun went off?
I believe I was sitting.
He stated drinks were 2 for 1, so they had 6 drinks instead of 3.
No, I bought 6 drinks total, 3 each.
Why was her hand in front of her face at time of accident?
I have no idea.
At some point, defendant said, forgot it was loaded. Now he says he knew it was loaded. Why the change?
I don't believe I ever said it. I knew it was loaded. I remember hindsight that I put it together the normal way I would put it away, and I forgot I did that.
What do you mean I knew better and I shouldn't have let this happen?
I should have changed something to keep this from happening. Should have been sitting across from each other.
Defense, any follow-up?
No, sir.
State, any follow-up?
No, Your Honor.
Members of the jury, any additional questions from any of you all? If so, please raise your hands. Okay. Oh, go ahead. Whoa. Questions have to be written. Okay. Use a clean sheet of paper with no other writing on it. White noise on, ladies and gentlemen. Members of the jury, any additional questions? If so, please raise your hand. Please write down on a clean piece of paper. Put the white noise on, ladies and gentlemen. Why did you decide to clean guns at the end of the day, especially since you had been drinking?
I thought we were being safe. I didn't really put much thought into it.
Any follow-up, defense?
No, sir.
State.
No, Your Honor.
Members of the jury, any additional questions? If so, raise your hands. All right, seeing no hands, sir, you can retake your seat. Mr. Tiny, state you intend to present any rebuttal evidence.
No, Your Honor.
All right, members of the jury, the state and the defense have both rested, which means that you've heard all the evidence that you're going to hear in this trial. At this point, we have to get the jury instructions together, the final instructions on the law that I'm going to give you. That may take a couple of minutes. There's some other things logistically that we have to handle. I will try to get you back in here by 9:45. It may take a little longer, maybe a little shorter, but take advantage of the break, have some coffee, water, stretch your legs, what have you. Your notepads must remain here in the courtroom face down. I want to remind you, the case is not being submitted to you yet for deliberations, okay? So you cannot talk about the case with one another in any way, shape, or form, okay? Also, if you happen to get on your cell phones or other electronic devices during the break, do not use them to try to learn about the case or the persons or places involved in the case. The best practice would be not even to get on your phones and check it unless you're expecting some type of emergency message or something of that nature, okay? But we'll get you back in here as soon as we're able, okay? All right, leave your notepads here. We'll see you soon. The jury's left the courtroom. Counsel, y'all can be seated. Let's move into the final charge conference. Did either the state or defense see anything in the draft instructions that I sent you all yesterday at the close of the day that you believe warranted additional modification?
No, sir.
No, sir.
I know we agreed we would circle back on 3.10 rules for deliberation, number 7. The jury is not to discuss any questions that a juror wrote that were not asked by the court, must not hold that against either party. There were no questions posed by the jurors that were not asked, so I will remove that. Yes, sir. So we need 9 copies, one for each of the jurors. State, do you want a printed copy?
If you don't mind, yes.
Or if you want to wait a little bit. Okay. I'll be back in a few moments with the copies. Thank you. Counsel, you all be seated. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. So we're going to now begin with the instructions on the law, closing argument, and then final instructions. So the way this will work, I will read the bulk of the instructions that you're holding in your hand to you. The attorneys will make their arguments, then I'll conclude.
I know. Thank you so much. Ooh, Maddie, he's so handsome. Thank you. Now, you know, if you received that gifted membership from Maddie, you know what you need to say. Thank you, Maddie. Ooh, he's so handsome. Oh boy. Okay, so we going into closing arguments, guys. I know that they are in jury deliberations. If they bring the verdict, then I'll ask you guys if y'all want to look at the verdict or if y'all want to finish with the closing arguments, but I don't think that the closing arguments is that long. And so we should be good. Anybody that gets anything before us. Remember, no spoilers here. We are all just kind of like watching this at the same time. All right, guys.
Final instructions and deliberations will begin. So what you're going to be bringing back into the jury room, okay, the draft of the instructions that you're holding in your hands, those don't go back. Okay? Those are simply for you to read along with while I read them out loud, hopefully to aid in understanding and comprehension. You will get a copy of the final instructions. Once I actually read them, we'll go back with you to the jury deliberation room. I tell you that because if you end up wanting to take notes during your closing argument, do not take them on the copy of the instructions that you're holding in your hand, because we are going to take those up and destroy them. Okay, so any notes that you want to take during closing arguments or during the reading of the instructions, make sure you take them on your notepads. Okay, again, these are just being provided for your convenience to help you follow along as I read them. Let's go ahead and start. We're going to begin on page 1. Members of the jury, I thank you for your attention during this trial. Please pay attention to the instructions I'm about to give you. Leslie Dale Boileau, the defendant junior, the defendant in this case, has been accused of the crime of manslaughter. Leslie Dale Boileau Jr. is accused of manslaughter, which is unlawful. However, a killing that was excusable or that was committed by the justifiable use of deadly force is lawful. If you find Paulina Wright was killed by Leslie Dale Boileau Jr., you will then consider the circumstances surrounding the killing in deciding if the killing was manslaughter or whether the killing was excusable or resulted from the justifiable use of deadly force. The use of deadly force to kill a human being is justifiable homicide, and therefore lawful, if necessarily done while resisting an attempt to murder or commit a felony upon the defendant, or to commit a felony in any dwelling house in which the defendant was at the time of the killing. Deadly force means force likely to cause death or great bodily harm. Great bodily harm means harm that is more than slight, trivial, minor, or moderate. The killing of a human being is excusable and therefore lawful under any one of the following 3 circumstances. 1. When the killing is committed by accident and misfortune, doing any lawful act by lawful means with usual ordinary caution and without any unlawful intent. Or 2. When the killing occurs by accident and misfortune in the heat of passion, upon any sudden and sufficient provocation. Or 3. When the killing is committed by accident and misfortune resulting from a sudden combat, if a dangerous weapon is not used and the killing is not done in a cruel or unusual manner. A dangerous weapon is any object that will likely cause death or great bodily harm if used in the ordinary and usual manner contemplated by its design and construction. To prove the crime of manslaughter, the state must prove the following 2 elements beyond a reasonable doubt. 1. Paulina Wright is dead. 2. Leslie Dale Boileau Jr. A. intentionally committed an act or acts that caused the death of Paulina Wright, or B. caused the death of Paulina Wright by his culpable negligence. Every person has a duty to act reasonably toward others. If there is a violation of that duty without any conscious intention to harm, that violation is negligence. The defendant cannot be guilty of manslaughter by committing a merely negligent act, or if the killing was either justifiable or excusable homicide, as I have previously instructed you. In order to convict a manslaughter by act, it is not necessary for the state to prove that the defendant had an intent to cause death, only an intent to commit an act that was not merely negligent, justified, or excusable, and which caused death. I will now define culpable negligence for you. As I have said, every person has a duty to act reasonably toward others. If there is a violation of that duty without any conscious intent to harm, that violation is negligence. But culpable negligence is more than a failure to use ordinary care toward others. For negligence to be culpable, it must be gross and flagrant. Culpable negligence is a course of conduct showing reckless disregard of human life, or a grossly careless disregard for the safety and welfare of the public. The negligent act or omission must have been committed with an utter disregard for the safety of others. Culpable negligence is consciously doing an act or following a course of conduct that the defendant knew or reasonably should have known was likely to cause death or great bodily injury. If you find that Leslie Dale Boileau Jr. committed manslaughter, you also find beyond a reasonable doubt that during the commission of the crime he personally carried, displayed, used, threatened to use, or attempted to use a firearm, you should find him guilty of manslaughter with a firearm. A firearm is defined as any weapon which is designed to or may readily be converted to expel a projectile by the action of an explosive. If you find that Leslie Dale Boileau Jr. committed manslaughter, but you are not convinced beyond a reasonable doubt that he personally carried, displayed, used, threatened to use, or attempted to use a firearm, then you should find him guilty only of manslaughter. The defendant has entered a plea of not guilty. This means you must presume or believe the defendant is innocent. The presumption stays with the defendant as to each material allegation in the information through each stage of the trial, unless it has been overcome by the evidence to the exclusion of and beyond a reasonable doubt. To overcome the defendant's presumption of innocence, the state has the burden of proving the crime with which the defendant is charged was committed, and the defendant is the person who committed the crime. The defendant is not required to present evidence or prove anything. Whenever the words reasonable doubt are used, you must consider the following. Proof beyond a reasonable doubt does not mean proof beyond all doubt. A reasonable doubt is not a mere possible doubt, a speculative, imaginary, or forced doubt. Such a doubt must not influence you to return a verdict of not guilty if you have an abiding conviction of guilt. On the other hand, if, after carefully considering, comparing, and weighing all the evidence, there is not an abiding conviction of guilt, or if, having a conviction, it is one which is not stable, but one which wavers and vacillates, then the charge is not proved beyond every reasonable doubt, and you must find the defendant not guilty because the doubt is reasonable. It is to the evidence introduced in this trial and it alone that you are to look for that proof. A reasonable doubt as to the guilt of the defendant may arise from the evidence, conflict in the evidence, or the lack of evidence. If you have a reasonable doubt, you should find the defendant not guilty. If you have no reasonable doubt, you should find the defendant guilty. It is up to you to decide what evidence is reliable. You should use your common sense in deciding which is the best evidence and which evidence should not be relied upon in considering your verdict. You may find some of the evidence not reliable or less reliable than other evidence. You should consider how the witnesses acted as well as what they said. Some things you should consider are: 1. Did the witness seem to have an opportunity to see and know the things about which the witness testified? 2. Did the witness seem to have an accurate memory? 3. Was the witness honest and straightforward in answering the attorney's questions? 4. Did the witness have some interest in how the case should be decided? 5. Does the witness's testimony agree with the other testimony and other evidence in the case? 6. Did the witness at some other time make a statement that is inconsistent with the testimony he or she gave in court? Whether the state has met its burden of proof does not depend upon the number of witnesses it has called or upon the number of exhibits it has offered, but instead upon the nature and quality of the evidence presented. The fact that a witness is employed in law enforcement does not mean that his or her testimony deserves more or less consideration than that of any other witness. Expert witnesses are like other witnesses, with one exception. The law permits an expert witness to give his or her opinion. However, an expert's opinion is reliable only when given on a subject about which you believe him or her to be an expert. Like other witnesses, you may believe or disbelieve all or any part of an expert's testimony. The defendant in this case has become a witness. You should apply the same rules to consideration of his testimony that you apply to the testimony of other witnesses. It is entirely proper for a lawyer to talk to a witness about what testimony the witness would give if called to the courtroom. The witness should not be discredited by talking to a lawyer about his or her testimony. You may rely upon your own conclusion about the credibility of any witness. A juror may believe or disbelieve all or any part of the evidence or the testimony of any witness. A statement claimed to have been made by the defendant outside of court has been placed before you. Such a statement should always be considered with caution and be weighed with great care to make certain it was freely and voluntarily made. Therefore, you must determine from the evidence whether the defendant's alleged statement was knowingly, voluntarily, and freely made. In making this determination, you should consider the total circumstances, including but not limited to: 1. Whether, when the defendant made the statement, he had been threatened in order to get him to make it, and 2. Whether anyone had promised him anything in order to get him to make it. If you conclude the defendant's out-of-court statement was not freely and voluntarily made, you should disregard it. The attorneys will now present their final arguments. Please remember that what the attorneys say is not evidence or your instruction on the law. However, do listen closely to their arguments. They are intended to aid you in understanding the case. Each side will have an equal time, but the state is entitled to divide this time between an opening argument and a rebuttal argument after the defense has given its closing arguments. Members of the jury, after the state and defense have both made their arguments, we will pick up on page 6 of 10 and conclude with the final instructions. State?
Yes, Your Honor, and before I begin, if I can have access to the
Yes, sir.
May it please the court, counsel, members of the jury.
That's the difference.
Is that the defense?
There we go. Let me know when you're ready, Mr. Chairman.
Should be up. intentional acts with unintended results. Quite simply put, that's why we're here today. That's manslaughter. As I stand before you today, and as Mr. Buxman told you yesterday in opening statements, and as I even discussed with you Monday at jury selection, this isn't a case where we're alleging or we're going to prove to you that Leslie Boileau Jr. intended to kill Paulina Wright, thought about killing Paulina Wright, or killed her out of hatred, ill will, spite, or bad intent. However, what we did tell you we were going to prove, and what we did prove throughout yesterday and today, is that the defendant intentionally committed actions that led to the death of Paulina Wright. As the judge has been reading instructions, and as he said, he's going to read some other instructions. One of the things that he's going to go over with you in a few minutes is a jury verdict form, and it's going to look a lot like this. Quite simply, there's two options. Either you find the defendant guilty of manslaughter, or you find him not guilty. And we're going to talk about why the state proved beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant is guilty of manslaughter, and we'll talk about that in a couple of minutes. But when you check A, there's an additional question, which is, did the state prove beyond a reasonable doubt that during the commission of the crime, the defendant personally carried, used, displayed, threatened to use, or attempted to use a firearm? And you have to check yes or no once you check A. So let's go through what exactly it is that I have to prove. And I know the judge just read it to you, but I kind of want to go through it a little bit more in detail. So to prove manslaughter, state has to prove the following two elements. Number one, Paulina Wright is dead. Well, members of the jury, that part of your job for deliberations has already been done. You heard that there was a stipulated fact that the person who unfortunately lost their life on the night of September 19, 2024 was Paulina Wright. You heard from the medical examiner that Paulina Wright suffered a gunshot wound to the head, succumbed to those injuries, and unfortunately passed away. Element one is not in question. However, what you do have to determine is element two. That Leslie Boileau Jr. either A, intentionally committed an act or acts that caused the death of Paulina Wright, or caused the death of Paulina Wright by his culpable negligence. So what does that mean? Well, as the judge read to you, in order to convict of manslaughter by act, it's not necessary for the state to prove that the defendant had an intent to cause death. Only an intent to commit an act that was not merely negligent, justified, or excusable, and which caused death. Let's talk about that for a minute. We've heard several statements from the defendant throughout his 911 call, body-worn camera, statements to Detective Kern, and even when he sat here today on the jury stand and talked to us. What was the one consistent thing he said the entire time? I was holding the gun, I pulled the trigger. He didn't slip, he didn't fall, he didn't drop the gun, he didn't accidentally pick up the gun in a way where he grabbed the trigger and made it off. What he's consistently said the entire time was, we were doing dry fire exercises. What's a dry fire exercise? That's when we fire the gun when it's unloaded. You pull the trigger, you hear it go click, and then you have to reset the trigger. What's resetting the trigger? You have to charge it. Pull that charging rod back, let the trigger reset, and pull the trigger again. What was one of the first questions I asked the members of the jury when I got up here on cross-examination? So when you had that gun in your hand and it went off, you intentionally pulled the trigger. Yes, an intentional act. That's where our job is done. I don't have to prove that he intended for that gun to go off. I don't have to prove that he intended for that bullet to hit Paulina Wright and for it to kill her. It's extremely unfortunate what happened that night. I'm not disagreeing with that. And I'm not disagreeing that this was unavoidable and other decisions could have been made to where we weren't here today. But unfortunately, no matter how anybody feels about the situation or how that went down last night, does not change the circumstances of the law, the facts, and what the law requires for me to prove, and for you guys when you go back to deliberate, when you have to decide whether we proved or not. Now, I know there was some other things that the defendant wanted to say on the stand to kind of explain how things happen. And members of the jury, I'm not one to say whether I believe or don't believe certain things. That's your job to determine a witness's credibility. But as the judge talked about, things that you get to talk about or consider when weighing a witness's credibility is whether it makes sense and whether it is consistent with the other evidence that we've seen and what we've heard. And I find it interesting today that when the defendant's on the stand, he's talking about how he's trying to manipulate this gun and he's cradling it, but he's sitting and cradling it and he's trying to cock it. You get to take that firearm into the jury room. You get to look at it. You saw Ms. Killinger yesterday standing in front of you displaying how that firearm works, how that firearm operates, what you have to do to charge that firearm. You have to pull that charging rod back and let it go. Cradling it, pulling it, it's not consistent with what happened. Holding it up to your head to hear if there's a click, but shooting Paulina right dead center in the forehead, not consistent with what the evidence was showing us. What is consistent is what he told law enforcement, what he told the 911 operator, what he told Detective Kern, and what he kind of a little bit told us tonight or today, dry fire exercises. We heard a little bit about that training. One of the first things we do as law enforcement is we do dry fire exercises, and one of those reasons why we do dry fire exercises is practicing how to acquire a sight picture, how to aim down a gun and get our target, how to see it. When we're at the gun range doing our trainings, we take those guns, we aim right at our target. Talked about the rules of gun safety. Never point a gun at something you don't intend to shoot or destroy. Never point a gun at another person. You always point the gun at your target. That's why the red dot sight was on that night. Dry fire exercises, training exercises, looking at your target. Members of the jury, there's signs outside this courthouse. You can't bring in guns, weapons. I'm hearing you can't even bring in metal cups. But you know what you're not prohibited from bringing in here? Is your common sense. This wasn't a situation where the defendant was pointing the gun at a wall next to Paulina Wright and the bullet curves and hits her dead center in the head, goes out the exact center of the back of her head, into the wall directly behind her. Clear shot that we even see in that photo. He intentionally aimed that gun at her. He intentionally pulled that trigger. He just did not intend for the outcome to happen. That, members of the jury, is why that's manslaughter. But let's talk, because there's an or in there. We talked about intentional act a little bit, but there's that second one too. Culpable negligence. Culpable negligence, as I said, is every person has a duty to act reasonably towards others. If there's a violation of that duty without any conscious intent to harm, that violation is negligence. But culpable negligence is more than a failure to use ordinary care towards others. For negligence to be culpable, it must be gross and flagrant. Culpable negligence is a course of conduct showing reckless disregard of human life or a grossly careless disregard for the safety and welfare of the public. The negligent act or admission must have been committed with an utter disregard for the safety of others, and culpable negligence is consciously doing an act or following the course of conduct that the defendant knew or reasonably should have known was likely to cause death or great bodily injury. Let's talk about that. What did he tell us today? The one thing that I should have changed, the one thing I know I did wrong, we shouldn't have been sitting across from each other. Because when we're sitting across from each other and I point a gun and I intentionally pull the trigger, it might go through the person's head and into the wall in the kitchen. Because when you're sitting across from each other, there's a chance that somebody's in the line of fire. That's why I asked those questions on cross too about hot ranges and cold ranges, something that the defendant is obviously very familiar with. But when you're at a gun range, anytime anybody crosses the imaginary line that you're sitting and firing those guns, that range goes cold. Meaning that everyone has to put the guns down and lay them down. Doesn't matter whether it's the person next to you or 5 rows down stepping out in front of that line. Because there's always a concern or fear that somebody could get hit with a bullet. This wasn't a situation where he had Paulina Wright slightly to his side but slightly in front of her. She was dead in front of her, doing training exercises, pointing guns at each other. And I understand. He said it today. He said it a couple times during Kern. Well, it was at their general direction. But members of the jury, that's not the case. How else do we know that besides just with the evidence of the trajectory? The other thing we talked about, and specifically what Dr. Lange talked about, that injury to Paulina Wright's finger. I'll be the first person to tell you, I know Mr. Taddy will probably say the same thing. No, Dr. Lange cannot tell you in any way, shape, or form what Paulina Wright was doing with her hand moments before she got shot. That's a question for you guys to determine and for you guys to figure out. However, based off the circumstances, the evidence and testimony been provided, I would submit that one way is that the defendant was pointing the gun at her, and a natural reaction by most people, don't point that at me. Hey, don't point at my face. Because we know where it was aiming. Hey, don't do that. The person being taught how to safely use, own, and operate firearms was the one that night who had the common sense to go, don't point it at my face. Not the person with the years of experience, the years of training, familiarity with firearms. Let's talk about that training. I entered in a packet yesterday of the defendant's training records. It's a pretty big packet, but I kind of want to highlight a couple pages of why it was important and why I wanted to introduce that. The first one is these are 2 pages. The first one on the left is his history from 2016 to 2020. Or I'm sorry, 2017 to 2020. The one on the right is 2020 to 2024. And what you see is the number of hours that he completes for certain titles or courses in that time frame for certain topics. On the one on the left for firearms, it's 21 hours. On the one on the right from 2020 to 2024, it's 24 and a half hours. Indicating in that 8 years that he's with law enforcement, he had over 44 hours of training, courses, classes on how to use, operate, and the general functioning of firearms. And he even told you today, not in any of those classes, trainings, studies, do they suggest, do they tell you, do they have you point firearms at other people, point firearms at people with downrange, point guns even in general directions? Because that's not safe. And we talked about his training that he did every single year. 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, 21, 22, 23, 24. And what you see at the top of all of those are rifle qualification courses. We actually kind of heard in a roundabout way a little bit about that yesterday with Detective Kern. And when Mr. Taddy was asking him questions about rifles and how we heard him in the interview saying, I don't know much about Daniel defense guns. And Mr. Taddy asked him, is that true? And he said, I have very little familiarity with assault rifles. In fact, I'm not even issued an agency one. I don't do the training every year. But you know who did? Leslie Boileau Jr. And what's one of the things that we see every single year about halfway through on those lists when it's passed? Safety. Meaning every single year when he has to go get requalified to use an assault rifle exactly like what he shot Paulina Wright with, he has to go over how to safely handle and operate a firearm. He has to go over every single year what he told us today, which is you don't point guns at each other. You don't handle guns when you've been drinking or under the influence. You don't handle guns with distractions like loud TV with football in the background. You don't handle guns with somebody who doesn't know any experience. You don't point a gun at somebody if you're not intending to shoot them or destroy them. There's one thing the defendant said today on the stand when answering one of your questions that I think sums up very best what happened. I'm sorry I forget the question that was asked to him. But the response he gave was, I didn't put much thought into it. That, members of the jury, is culpable negligence. handling arguably one of the most deadly things on this planet with somebody who has little to no knowledge about it, pointing it at them, dry firing it, having live ammunition and loaded magazines on that table, playing with fire, picking up that gun, pointing it at a person, pulling the trigger, racking the gun, pulling the trigger again. And I kind of want to stop and circle on that for a minute. Because again, members of the jury, it's up for your interpretation to decide. But pay close attention to what he's talked about with Detective Kern and even kind of with his testimony, but that inconsistency. Because the way I recall it is he talks about how he was cleaning the rifle first. Paulina was off doing other things. He was cleaning the rifle. She wanted to see parts. He's showing her parts, puts it back together. They start dry firing that rifle. They're done with it. He was going to put it away. She grabs the gun. He grabs the rifle again and loads it. But then when Mr. Taddy today asked him, well, how did the gun go off? Well, I had just put it back together and I wanted to make sure it was operating and I wanted to hear that click. So was it that you cleaned the gun, had dry fired it multiple times, heard the click every time, pulled the charging rod back every single time, hearing the gun and feeling that trigger reset, pulling it, and then forgot you put a loaded magazine in it? Or is it what we just heard for the first time today, that that gun had never been dry fired until he actually discharged it and shot Paulina? You get to make that determination. The members of the jury, at the end of it all, you don't even have to just take my word for it that it's culpable negligence. We heard it from the defendant multiple times throughout the 911 call, throughout the body work camera. I'm going to have you listen one more time.
God damn it, no! I knew I should have been doing this!
No! I knew we should have been fucking doing this! She has one. I don't know why we're fucking doing this!
I knew this was a tip. I know it looks really fucking bad. Fuck, I know better. I know fucking better. Why the fuck was I do? I should not let this happen! Fucking let this happen! I know better! I fucking know better! Should not have been fucking doing this!
Bicyclists is on the ground.
No! I know better! We should not have been doing that!
Which I know is fucking wrong. We should not have been doing that. She wasn't doing it properly because we were pointing the guns at each other. And I know better. That should not have been happening. Oh, it sounds bad, but after we go to dinner and have a few drinks, I get sloppy, I guess. I should not have been allowing that to happen.
That, members of the jury, is a negligent act or omission that was committed with an utter disregard for the safety of others. That's doing conduct that the defendant knew or reasonably should have known could have caused great bodily harm or death of Paulina, right? But did those actions anyways. That was one of the questions that you members of the jury asked the defendant on the stand. That's your answer. The defendant knew the potential outcome, the potential results, and he did it anyways. That, members of the jury, is culpable negligence. That, members of the jury, is why when you go back in that jury verdict room and you get that jury verdict form, you're going to find the defendant guilty. And you're going to find that during that act of manslaughter that he did actually possess a firearm. Because that's what the evidence supports, what justice demands, and what the law requires. Thank you.
Yeah, please support.
Sure. Let me know when you're ready for me to switch it over to presentation.
Ready. Good morning. First off, on behalf of my client and myself, thank you. You paid attention. And you agreed to become a part of something that you don't come across every day of your life. Okay. Probably inconvenient. And I'm sure all of you would much rather be someplace else right now. And on top of that, we're going to ask you to make a really important decision. So thank you. I told you in my opening statement that everything that the police department and frankly, prosecutors knew about what happened to Paulina Wright came from what Dale said to them. But all they seemed to hear was we were pointing the guns at each other. A statement made minutes after the worst moment in his life, covered in his girlfriend's blood, while his head is swirling between grief, anger at himself, and disbelief for the situation he found himself in. A couple hours later, when Detective Kern went straight to that statement, Dale said, no, not pointing at each other, pointing in the general direction. And it's on the tape. Watch it. Okay? The pointing at each other thing should have died a quick death right there. Because he explained, no, that's not what we were doing. He has never, ever said we were pointing guns like this, aiming at each other. There is absolutely no evidence that that ever happened. But apparently, Detective Kern didn't hear the air come out of the balloon when Dale said, no, we weren't pointing them at each other. They were in the general direction because obviously they're sitting across the table from each other. That suddenly didn't matter. No, apparently the detective decided he knew all that he needed to know. Didn't matter what happened earlier that day. He told me that when I asked him if he knew what they had done all day. Didn't matter. Bet it would have mattered if Dale and Paulina had had some argument and he threatened her. But the detective didn't need to know that, apparently. It didn't matter what Dale and Paulina did for the 2.5 hours after they got home from the restaurant. He told me that too when I asked him, do you know everything they did when they got home? I know enough. So obviously they weren't sitting there with those guns for 2.5 hours. That defies any logic. They were getting up, going to the bathroom, going to see the TV. There's a dog in the house, there's a cat in the house. But that didn't matter to Detective Kern. Didn't matter how much alcohol is in a $4.49 margarita. It didn't matter whether there was more alcohol in the house. Which is why he said he didn't ask the evidence technician to look for it. There wasn't, and you could see it in the pictures. Look at the picture of the dining room table. The only can on the table, the evidence technician identified as green tea. There's pictures of the kitchen, sink. There's no alcohol container anywhere out in the living area. That wasn't important. But he kind of tricked himself because his explanation for not telling the tech to look for alcohol was, well, I talked to him and I didn't see any indication of a problem. Boom. So why are we talking about alcohol today? Why? Detective Kern didn't think it was a problem. And that is absolutely symptomatic of how the detective approached this case. He reached conclusions based on little nuggets of information, selective nuggets of information, and then decided there was no need to actually test or verify those conclusions when it could have been done so easily. Show me what you did. That's not a technical or hard question. Pretty easy. And when a guy says we were pointing the guns at each other and then says no in the general direction, how do you figure that out? Show me what you did. Did he ever ask him? Not once. Not one time. Because he'd already made up his mind. And that's why, ultimately, he never really bothered to find out the circumstances surrounding Paulina's death. He shot him with a gun, and he should have known better because he was a cop. Right? And he tried to backtrack from that, but he sure wrote it in his report. He didn't bother to ask. But now you know what happened. Because in this room, with his freedom at stake, every question is worth asking. Even yours. And I used to hate jury questions. Just scared the crap out of me. But I am thrilled that you folks got to ask questions. Because you did what Kern did. And he is totally incapable of telling you what happened to Paulina. Because he doesn't know. So at the point they sat down, having rested their case, you didn't know. All you knew is she was shot in the head. And you knew, because of listening to his anguish, that he was responsible for that. You knew that. But that doesn't make him guilty of manslaughter. And we'll talk about this in a minute, but the problem is that manslaughter is not a function of the consequence of someone's behavior. You look at what they did, not the result of what they did. There's nowhere in that instruction that tells you somebody's guilty of manslaughter by culpable negligence. Culpable negligence comes along when you do something really bad. No, it doesn't say that. It focuses on the conduct. Is what he did more than making a mistake? And we'll put the consequence over here for you. Okay? Keep that kind of in the back of your head. And we're going to go through that instruction. Mr. O'Neill went through it one time. I'll focus on what I think you need to see. But all the law comes from the judge. And you're going to have it, so you can read it. Everything I said in an opening statement that would be revealed by the evidence proved to be accurate. I didn't miss one thing. But only because I presented evidence and because I poked or prodded evidence out of their witnesses. The evidence bringers failed. Utterly failed. What happened to 25-year-old Paulina Wright was a tragedy. It shouldn't have happened. It makes you angry. Makes me angry that a mistake took the life of a beautiful young woman. But you can't use anger. You got to leave that one outside. And the judge is going to tell you that. The next instruction he's going to read to you says, this case must not be decided for or against anyone because you feel sorry for anyone or are angry at anyone. Okay? Is it wrong to be angry? Of course not. Of course not. But that doesn't make it a crime because it makes you angry.
Okay, so my question for you guys is that I do see a notification that the verdict is in. Do you guys want to continue with the rest of the closing arguments from the defense, or do y'all want to go ahead and watch the verdict? Y'all know they haven't started just yet, so just so y'all know. You know, it's probably they gotta get people in the right places. So let's do this. I will go ahead and continue to play this. And then when I see them actually go into the courtroom after, you know, everybody gets situated, then I'll take us back in.
Angry. And to illustrate that, let's take a step back. Think for just a minute. And for a moment, let's pretend there was no gun. Okay? Let's pretend that on the way home from the restaurant, Dale dropped his phone on the floorboard of the truck. And for a split second, he looked down and shifted his feet to see where the phone went and slightly turned the wheel. Truck ran off the road, hit a tree. Pauline is dead. Would you be any less angry about the tragedy of her death? No. But under those circumstances, what caused her death was something probably every one of us has done one time or another driving a car. Made a stupid decision. Does that make you guilty of a manslaughter under my little facts? No. That's the differentiation. Driving cars is dangerous. Handling firearms is dangerous. And accidents can happen doing either one with devastating consequences. But the consequence is not what makes it a crime. And it is to the law that we must look to determine whether a crime was committed in this case. You've seen this. There are two elements. We know Pauline is dead. He knows it his every waking moment. So we got two ways to do it. Intentionally committed an act or acts that cause the death of Paulina Wright, or cause the death of Paulina Wright by his culpable negligence. So what was the intentional act?
Breaking news, live from Channel 5. Whatever. Y'all know what I mean. All right, let me take us in here so we can watch the verdict.
Jury has reached a verdict. So before we bring them in, I do want to say to everybody here, families in attendance, obviously, you all have a interest in the outcome of this case. I want to commend all of you for how you've behaved during the course of the trial. I said it earlier today, and I'll say it again. I don't think I've ever been a part of a trial where we've had this many people here on a matter that's obviously close to all of you, where everybody has behaved appropriately. I trust that will continue with the reading of the jury's verdict. I would ask that you show no visible signs of approval or disapproval of the verdict whatsoever, out of respect for the hard work that this jury has put into the case and for the difficult decision that we have called upon them to make. This is not their usual day-to-day existence. This is something extraordinary we have required of them. So with that being said, are we ready to receive the jury?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Oh, no.
Counsel, you all can be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Ma'am, I trust you're the foreperson.
Yes.
You hand the verdict form to the bailiff, please. Has the jury reached a verdict?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Boileau, will you please stand for the reading of the verdict? Madam Clerk.
Verdict, we the jury find as follows as the defendant in this case. The defendant is guilty of manslaughter. Did the state prove beyond a reasonable doubt that during the commission of the offense, the defendant personally carried, displayed, used, threatened to use, or attempted to use a firearm? Yes. So say we all day this first day of October 2025.
Okay, thank you. Y'all can be seated. Madam Clerk, will you please poll the jury? Members of the jury, the clerk will ask each of you individually whether this is your verdict. You respond with yes or no.
Linda Young, is this your verdict?
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, I wish to thank you for your time and consideration of this case. I also wish to advise you of some very special privileges enjoyed by jurors. No juror can ever be required to talk about the discussions that occurred in the jury room, except by court order. For many centuries, our society has relied upon juries for consideration of difficult cases. We have recognized for hundreds of years that a jury's deliberations, discussions, and votes should remain their private affair as long as they wish it. Therefore, the law gives you a unique privilege to not speak about the jury's work. Although you are at liberty to speak with anyone about your deliberations, you are also at liberty to refuse to speak to anyone. A request to discuss either your verdict or your deliberations may come from those who are simply curious, from those who might seek to find fault with you, from the media, from the attorneys, or elsewhere. It will be up to each of you to decide whether to preserve your privacy as a juror. With that said, I hereby discharge you as the jury of this case. I do want to thank you sincerely for the time and attention you gave to this matter. If you'll retire once more to the jury room, Deputy Boucher will hand your cell phones out. I also have some juror certificates I will come back and give you as thanks for your jury service. I'll be with you shortly.
Thank you.
The jury has left the courtroom. Mr. Boileau will be remanded into custody.
The court consider allowing him to remain at liberty pending sentence.
No, sir. Now, let's talk about sentencing. He's entitled to a pre-sentence investigation. So one will be ordered. I would like that back from the Department of Corrections within 30 days. Now, how long? I see a lot of people here. I don't know how many people are going to want to speak at sentencing. How long do you all think we will need for a sentencing hearing?
I would imagine maybe at least an afternoon, Your Honor. If the court would allow, I can also kind of, if your assistant could provide a couple dates outside of that, I can obviously work with what works with the family and kind of have a better idea of how many statements to have a better idea of what time we would need.
Okay. All right. Well, as part of the pre-sentence investigation, people are free to write letters.
Yes, sir.
And for the state and the defense. I anticipate that I will probably do more reflecting on what sentence will be imposed than in most cases. I would appreciate as much information as I can have from both the state and the defense with the pre-sentence investigation. I will not send, I want at least 2 weeks after I have the PSI back to reflect on what's in it before we have a hearing.
Yes, Your Honor.
So, an afternoon, how long do you think you would need, Mr. Taddy, for what evidence you expect to present?
Probably a similar amount of time.
Okay. All right. Let's do this then. I ordinarily set a sentencing date today after verdict. I will, Madam Clerk, for calendaring purposes, I'd like to put Mr. Boileau's case on my October 14th pretrial conference docket. Is that a Tuesday?
It is a Tuesday.
Okay. For calendaring, just so we have another date out in the future, he'll be put on that date. By then, I'll have my assistant reach out to you all with possible dates for sentencing, and we can schedule it accordingly. Do you all think you'll need between the two of you a day, or afternoon each, or you all think an afternoon or a morning total will be sufficient?
I think a day.
Maybe a day, Your Honor, if you want to kind of give us the availability this afternoon, even as soon as that, I can kind of talk to the family, maybe have an idea. So when Ms. Seek reaches out, I can give a better idea.
Okay. Let's do this, Madam Clerk. Let's put him down on my November. Do you have my calendar? November 18th, 1 o'clock for pretrial conference. The PSI should be back by November the 1st. Between now and then, we'll figure out a day. I don't know with my trial schedule
Sure.
where we'll end up. We're probably looking, so that everybody here has an idea, probably mid to late November at the earliest, possibly even into December. But well, I'll try not to move around the holidays if I can. But
Yeah, sure.
very good. All right. Well, I'll see you all back in a couple weeks. Anything else to take up before we adjourn?
Nothing from the state, Your Honor.
No.
Okay. All right. Very good. I'll be adjourned.
Well, so we have to wait and come back, huh? Yeah. Wow. So we have to put that on our calendar of things to do. That's on our list of things to do. How many years will the officer get? Yeah, I think that his testimony, let's see what they say. So y'all see the poll. Did taking the stand help him? Hecky no. Nope. Some people say yeah. So I guess we will find out in a couple of weeks in regards to that portion of it. They will be calling him ma'am in prison, Merelda. Yeah, I think so. Let me see something here. So do you guys, is anybody interested in, do we need to go, well, do we need to go back and listen to the rest of the closing arguments from the defense? Would you guys like to finish that? You guys let me know. So if we want, we can go back and listen to that. Other than that, I think, so in the meantime, in between time, of course, you know, I'm always working. Like I'm always trying to find some stuff out here in these YouTube streets for us to handle. I think I mentioned this case briefly yesterday. It was not on Court TV or anything like that. It was just like from a local news channel that I found the information in regards to two men that are on trial in let me get it right, Michigan. I don't know, they were like posing as utility men or something like that. I have no clue what the heck they were doing, but they said this was pre-planned, premeditated, and they currently have two men, Jose, and I believe the other guy's name is Joseph. Don't take my word for it. Let me get it for you guys. That way I don't have to be guessing. Anyways, while I'm looking for the name, because I'm trying to set up the rooms. Sometimes when I'm multitasking, unfortunately, it keeps me from doing certain things. But matter of fact, this is what I'll do. I'm going to just stop multitasking and I'm just going to talk to you guys. And that way I don't have to be looking everywhere. So this case is out of Michigan. It's involving this guy named Joshua and also Carlos. They are both standing trial in regards to posing as some kind of utility department. Like they done went out and got stickers, decal, all types of stuff and put it on their cars. And they done went out here and unalived this man. Yeah, like that's my problem. Like I be so busy like doing all, I'm trying to like set up the room, set up this, like, sorry guys, y'all know it's a one-woman show over here. I don't know. Yeah, so they were impersonating a utility company or something. They call it the DTE imposter. I have no Detroit. I'm assuming Detroit. I don't know what DTE is, but Detroit let me see, because it's out of Detroit. So I got that Detroit telephone. I don't know. Detroit. It's Detroit something. It's Detroit something. But anywho, we'll figure it out. We'll find out because we're gonna go over there and we're gonna listen to the opening statements and we're gonna get into the trial, right? So it doesn't matter. So we'll find out, even if I don't know right now, we will find out soon what it is that they were doing and why they wanted to do it to this man. I have no clue. I want to see what the prosecutor team gonna say. Yeah, so I thought it was just gonna be shown up. I'm not sure if it's gonna be shown on Court TV or Law and Crime, but all I know is I do have a feed and from a local news station in Detroit. Give me 1 second. And I am going to finish so I don't have to. Give me 1 second. I almost got the room set up. I think. Yeah, I think I do. And then I'll be able to drop the link to you guys and we'll go into that trial and we'll see what's going on. Okay. Yeah, that's it. Okay. I just wanted to make sure I had it right. It is. We'll start this one at 10:30. I'm sorry, guys. Okay, cool. So that room is set up. Let me go ahead and get the link for us. I know y'all keeping me so busy. I don't even have time, no downtime to do no doggone chair dancing. Oh, did you know, Jason? Like, wait a minute. Wait. Let me get out of that because I was over there, but I'm trying to peek over here and be nosy in the chat. Wait a minute. So, just for FYI, did you know that I'm trying to give me a chair, right? For the with the music and the lights and stuff. I know. I'm so bullied. Are you trying to say that you want to dance with me? Are you ready to dance with me? I know. We got the. I don't know. I do them at Taking the Trail at the dark. I think I do. I think I've been doing them. Shoot, I don't know. Y'all got me off my square, off my game. That y'all done got me off my little thing. Like I can't concentrate. I'm like doing all this stuff, like trying to figure out all this stuff to keep us busy. Like maybe we might be too busy. Yeah, I know. No harm, no foul. Maybe we should put this one where we okay, so I'm gonna take this out. Okay, I'm doing this real quick. I'm putting this in here. Y'all don't have to go over there. Only because I don't want to have to come back and try to do it again. So this is gonna be the room link for the new trial. I'm only putting it in there so I won't make a mistake and not copy and paste it over here for you guys to click. You don't have to go over there. It's totally up to you if you want to go over there now, but that's where we're going to be going so we can look at this trial. I got to finish doing some stuff over there, but I can do it when we get over there. All right. So is anybody surprised about the verdict that we had over here? I'm just curious to know. I'm glad that it came back guilty, because if it didn't come back guilty, I was gonna feel some type of way, because of course we just came out of that trial with Tony, and I felt some type of way about that. You say, oh, you got jokes. All right. You got jokes. I guess what's going to be more important is we're going to be trying to figure out how much time he gets. I have to figure out what is the minimum and what's the max that he can receive. No, I told you, I said he was guilty based off of Jason's rules of evidence and Jason's rules of the law that we were provided in the last trial. I just plugged the figures into the different slots. I have learned my lesson. And so I definitely had the rules of engagement. I learned pretty fast, right? You only got to do it to me once. I only need one lesson to be learned. Now I know how this works. It's not about your feelings. You know, I've been told that a couple times, you know, in my personal relationship. So if I'm going by the facts and taking my feelings out, I might be okay. Yeah, and that was you know, and I don't know if you guys realize he was the only witness that the jurors questioned. I didn't see them ask any questions or anybody else. Everything else was clear. They wanted to ask those questions, and you know, and I'm glad that he got on the stand, because he was able to provide some answers, right, to us. Because I know if Merelda could have been questioning him, we would have got all the juicy, like, wait a minute, why was she naked and you were not? Let's start there. And where's her family? And y'all been together 2 years? Really? All right. Merelda would have been able to get all of that stuff out. No, she would have did a deep dive. So at least we got some of the stuff. We didn't get all of the stuff, but we got some. Yeah. That's how they, I mean, I ain't mad at it. Like, they had been at home for a minute, right? That night. So I could see, you know, they got in the house and, you know, they had a wonderful evening and they were bucket naked. What I don't agree with and what I don't understand in regards to everything is, I don't know why she would be bucket naked and the only cold steel that she wants around her is learning how to clean a gun. Like, you can miss me with that. Like by the time I'm bucket naked, don't nobody want to be playing with no guns. Like it's a lot of other things that we can play with. I do digress. Wow. Okay, here I go starting. Okay, let me stop. Yeah, like nah. Well, I don't care how hot we get up in there, Jason. We are not about to be playing with no gun, and I'm up here bucket naked. Okay, let's be grown out here in these streets. So I don't know. And then the jury, when they asked about her, why was her hand up? I'm like, well, whoa. And then his statements in regards to, I was pointing at her, I wasn't pointing at her. Like, these are things that we're not doing, but why he did the things that he did, that part I can't figure that out. I don't know the why, because we don't know anything. No baby oil. We're not doing the baby oil. Y'all better leave me alone with that daggone baby oil. No, not the baby oil. Does the gun oil? Oh gosh. I'm gonna watch my language around y'all, because look at y'all. Y'all getting look what we doing. I know. Everybody go get on me about this doggone baby oil. I tell you. Yeah, no, I missed it all the way. All the way. All right, guys. I'm gonna go ahead. I think I got everything set up in the other room. So we'll move over to the other room. I am going to drop the link again for you guys, and we are going to start the opening statements for our new trial that we're gonna be into. Okay. So let me drop that. You put on your seat belts, strap in, click the link. It'll teleport you over there, and we're gonna get started with our Michigan imposter case. Like, this seemed weird. I want to know I gotta hear these opening statements, because I want to know like how they thought they was gonna get away with this. These fools all on camera and everything. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. I'm not even, I see your comment, Maddie. I'm not doing that with you. Put some baby oil on when you strap in. It's strapped in. Oh gosh. Yeah. Yeah. All right, guys. I'll see you over there.